Oh, it just barely came up, so, well, it's okay. I can use this for now. Okay, so, okay. I hereby call this meeting to order for the purpose of a special meeting for the board to review the Highland High School Phase 2 update and revised elementary enrollment area proposal. I will turn the time over to Jonathan to present the Highland Phase 2 update.
Good afternoon, board members. This is an exciting day, and first of all, I wanted to again express appreciation. Next month will be 2 years on the 21st since we had that devastating fire at Highland. And so again, we want to acknowledge all of the staff and our learners for the accommodations that they have made and to prioritize their education in the various settings that they have. Appreciate the Highland High School admin, who is again supporting, great support of our teachers, our staff, all of our staff there, and of course our learners there. So again, this is the culminating of many meetings. I'd like to say thanks again to our Highland High School Rebuild Committee. There were several meetings there that gave input and insight into our building team to help us get where we are here today. And of course, you as the board had many discussions. We discussed it here in admin at length. So anyway, wanted to acknowledge that, appreciate that. So as mentioned before, again, Design West has completed their design, taking in the input from our rebuild committee. They employed several engineers in all aspects to make sure our building is up to code and it will be a great building. I guess the phrase I wanted to coin there is, in greatness takes a little bit of time. And so that's what we've got in this building, and so we appreciate Highland, specifically Highland community, Highland family there, and their community. Thanks for allowing us the time to design, and now we're starting the building phase. Again, Design West did a great job. Bateman Hall and their team was right there, verifying the designs, making sure it came in within budget, giving solutions, and then at the end there, getting all the bid packages and so forth. So anyway, we'll talk more about some of the numbers as we go on. I wanted to just mention a little bit about the Bench Road vacation as part of a Highland update. We mentioned last board meeting that I had to get signatures. Appreciate Brian Glenn. We kind of knocked doors, and it took a half dozen different times to catch everybody there. But we got the signatures. We got it notarized of the 7 property owners there that bordered Bench Road. And so the city has preliminary accepted that application. Even today, they've sent out that application to all of the utilities, Intermountain Gas, Idaho Power, all of the people that might have a say into that. We anticipate it will go before the city council the first part of April. And then we'll get that decision back from there. So that is moving along.
Will you just remind us what opportunities that affords us?
Oh yeah, thanks, I appreciate that. So again, it just opens up the possibilities. There is, we own both sides of that Bench Road now. That again, we might have to have an easement, and obviously we'll have access back to that parking lot, but it just provides us an opportunity really to think outside of the box. What is that front entrance of Highland going to look like in the years and decades to come? And so that's kind of the opportunities, at least was there anything else in specific?
Parking, traffic.
Oh yeah. So yes, of all the different aspects, not only the traffic flow, the parent drop-off, student parking, and of course all are focused around safety. And so those are still plans. We've had some thoughts. The homeowners themselves, we had great conversations. They basically want their property protected, but then have access if they have a gate in the back, and I think we can kind of do both, and those were reasonable. We'll still work with those property owners there. So anyway, so that is going along very well. Hopefully I'll have another update closer to the end of March. There is when it gets set on the city council.
So are those fences already there?
Correct, fence is
And
already
they
there.
just, and they want
Eh.
access gate, or,
Nope. If they had access gates, they just would
Oh.
like to maintain that
see.
access. And that was fair. That was
see.
fair if they
So,
have-
so they want ingress, egress, and regress.
Well, yeah, they just want, access.
Yeah,
to
they,
the-
they can get in and out anytime. they
Correct,
want to.
anytime they kind of want there. But as well as to protect, because almost every property owner had an experience of a car going through their backyard. We try to avoid that as we can, so. That was kind of all the update, because we'll cover the rest that we have there. This next one is to review some, the renderings. These are online as well. We appreciate Design West. They got these done for us in basically 24 hours. We'll have 2 sets of these 5 different boards. One will be here at the district office, and one will be at Highland. We've already actually, any presentation to any group that wants to know what's happening with Highland, we can haul these boards around and and mention that. So again, these drawings are not exact detailed. For example, the gym obviously is going to have some logos. It's going to be different color and so forth. The trees will be smaller. So
They'll be that big.
but again, you can kind of see the greatness and the awesomeness of some of these spaces that Highland will be able to enjoy there. Again, wanted to review the timeline that are the Bateman Hall's goal. No, it's not a goal. It's definitely in writing. But by January, January of 2027, which means we should have some access into December. But when the students come back, learners come back, staff come back January after the Christmas break in December of 26, so January of 27, we should have access to the gymnasium, should have access to those 6 classrooms, the cafeteria, kitchen, and the commons area. And the gymnasium, the weight room. And so we actually did 2 separate projects. There is a slight cost to that, because there's a little more work on Kent and Design West and his team. But we felt like if at all possible, we can, if we can get in early, that's what we want to do, and appreciate Bateman Hall. Kind of figuring out the schedule, figuring out how we can do that, and now it's their job to make sure the subcontractors get it done there. So then in the next summer, July of 27, that's when the auditorium and the music classrooms that surround that auditorium will be completed. So the goal to get in by August of 27 is still, and that's what we've communicated since day one, that should still take place. So we'll probably, and you can see that. We'll probably put some, all these drawings they're in your board packet, so they're online. We'll put them on the website as well. We might do some different shading and kind of highlight that timeline so it can get people excited there. Okay, so the next one is to review kind of the individual bid packages. Again, there's a memo, and then there's a document that lists every bid that we did receive. Again, as I counted up, we received over 100 bids representing about 92 different vendors. There were 39 different bid packages that Bateman Hall had put together the bid specifications for. Just everything that it needed that we needed to do to make this a great facility. And so you can see who they recommend. Appreciate all their work. They reviewed licensing, they reviewed subcontractor limits, and there was those that we had to kind of work through. They've talked to every one of these subcontractors to make sure they understood the scope, obviously trying to minimize any potential change orders there. And so we feel very comfortable through Bateman Hall that we recommend, and this would be for action, that we accept these recommended bids for, that we received for the Highland rebuild, or we call it the Phase 2 now after the demo. Okay, so that's 5 pages there. If You kind of peruse there, that lists the subcontractor and where they're located and the amounts.
So I can't help but notice,
Sure.
hold on, still scrolling.
Okay. Which one?
Okay, 2. We have 2 from Pocatello. I mean,
Okay.
I guess that's just the nature of the bidding process, but wow.
I think, yeah,
And that's, I will mention as a previous project, that's somewhat typical. I mean, we have to really draw on this whole Intermountain region there. There were some contractors that put in that from Pocatello, but they weren't low bid. So we were happy to have the contractors that here from Pocatello that did, put in an aggressive bid, and we're anxious to work with them.
And are many, I guess for Bateman Hall, are these folks you've worked with before, some of them?
Go ahead, Mike. That's an important question. Sure. Join me here.
A number of them are. The
Okay.
majority of them. I mean, there's a few that we're not familiar with that we spent a lot more time on the phone with. But top to bottom, it's a pretty good list.
Good.
and I noticed most of them are the lowest bid, but you feel like it is also quality and,
Right.
all that as well. I mean, obviously, that's the ones you chose.
Well, if there was any that had a history of poor quality, we would have tried to figure out a way to disqualify them. But with it being Public Works, we're kind of limited to low bid unless there's an issue. And we really didn't come up with anybody that we could find any issues with.
So we feel the quality, your subcontractors
you-
should,
Because now, I thought
give
that,
us
I
the
thought that the
building.
new way that the state law was written is that you don't have to take the low bid.
So for the CMGC process, and that's choosing our general contractor and our architect. That's the new way where that we chose our team here based on the board did on their qualifications. But yes, typically, contrary to what you said, we typically do have to take that low bid unless there are some extenuating circumstances or, issues. Obviously, they got to be licensed, but, there is some ways that we can disqualify a vendor that might be the low bid, make sure they understand the scope, but also past performance, past, experience that we have with them.
I mean, we would want the lowest bid, but
Correct.
there are a lot of things to consider.
Yeah, in some instances on here, you'll see that it wasn't the lowest bidder that we recommended simply because they didn't have the current licensing that they needed or that their package was incomplete. So there's a few of those that were low that we recommended around them simply because they didn't meet the statutes.
And those are the ones that indicated by no response, and then on the right side of that, whether they, and it's one of those things, if they can't complete our bid form, then why should we let them build our building?
No.
So one of those
Also,
things.
And they all agreed to the timeline, right? They all
Yes,
agreed to the timeline.
Yeah,
Is
so
there any, like, I guess,
we've asked them all that, anything long lead that could impact schedules so far, and so far everything's really been good. Now, the one caveat to that is just the potential for tariffs and what that's going to do to us in the next.
Yep, and we'll talk
months or
about
so,
that
but-
in the next
Supply,
section.
for
I know,
supplies.
But
exactly.
Stuff.
it's as
Right.
of right now, everything looks good. We
good.
put in the milestones. I mean, there's a whole page of milestones that we want to achieve with each phase of this project as we're going around, and they've all accepted those milestone dates. I mean, that's what we laid out to ensure that we could complete the early turnover, the first half of the building prior to the second half too. So
is there any, like, monetary, do they get, charged,
Incentivized? or-
incentivized?
there is no
Negatively?
no, because the schedule is laid out such that they should be able to do that. So there's no incentive for early completion on that.
But what about
The
disincentive?
incentive to make
Thank-
those is we will supplement, and we won't mess around with those that are non-performing. So
Oh, so you have the ability to bring somebody else in?
we have the ability
Oh,
to
good.
step in and find somebody else to come do it or take care of it ourselves if they're not performing. And that's
Oh.
something that we've been doing this for a while. We know when that time frame is and what we can do legally, and we just won't mess around with it because the schedule's too important and what we
Yeah.
promised you guys is too important. So
Right, and and your reputation precedes you. And
Yeah,
that's a
so-
lot of the reason we chose.
So I have a follow-up question then. Do most, and this is just my own Do most of these people bring all of their own crews, or will any of them hire people locally? I mean, are we helping our local, like, you know, like some of the finish work, they're coming from North Dakota, are they really just gonna bring everybody from North Dakota, or would they, you know, I don't know, is that how this stuff works, or is it just dependent?
Well, they're all required to hire Idaho labor per the statutes. They're
Okay.
required to have 95% labor per the statutes, and most will. You do have a few people that are such a specialty item
Sure, sure.
that would be really difficult for them to do, and, but for the, I
Correct.
mean, for the most part, they're gonna try and do that, but the skills required for their particular line of work, they have traveling crews that sometimes come and do that stuff too.
Okay,
And so there may be a few of those too, but it's usually in the higher skilled areas where it's just not likely that they'll pick up local labor for it.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
That's a good point. Okay, so that, again, that's up for action later on in the meeting to accept these bids. And then that gets, all these bids get rolled up into, actually the last item for me is basically a contract addendum, which is our guaranteed maximum price addendum. And so you'll see the exact contract, all the kind of the legal terms there. It really, on page 5 or 6, sorry, I don't have the PDF in front of me, where again, you can kind of see where the spreadsheet starts. Attachment A, if you can kind of go to that. That's Bateman Hall's form that they use to track all their subcontractors. So each one of these it shows the list of the subcontractor from the prior page, any changes to their pricing, so you can kind of see what they did. And I think it's on page, if I remember, page 11. No more than that. No, 8 or 9 on the PDF. It's. I printed mine in. It's in the second to last page. It's under. It's the allowance items. Is that? I'd like to stop there. Unless,
Just a second, Jonathan, we're having a little bit of.
okay, sorry. Some
And so it's
technical.
catching up.
Okay, that works.
We're all
No.
just about there.
The second to last page?
Oh, of the sorry, of
Of
the
the-
spreadsheet
okay.
looking.
Okay,
I think it's highlighted in green, if I remember.
yeah.
Is it right under red?
So it's
Correct.
page 8 of 20.
Thank you.
Oh.
Yes.
In the attachment, Bateman.
That's where I am.
Yep. So if
For
you'll
the guarantee?
a page go one page up, I guess. We just wanted to talk. Mike with Bateman Hall mentioned the tariffs, and just wanted to kind of show you some of these two sections here. It's entitled allowance items, A-1. Again, so this is Bateman Hall has kind of their contingency as well. This would be in the case that they needed something or found something. Kent and his team did a great job designing. Again, a great building. Every once in a while, there are some things that we have to address or come up, and that's their contingency. They will let us know when they use that. The second one is ours. So again, that little over $2 million is basically our contingency. That's if something were to come up that we change, but as well as tariffs. If one of these vendors says that, then we'll basically would work that, and again, that still protects us within that guaranteed maximum price. Now, that being said, is that, again, Mike and his team, Doyle.
4 to 6 down the bottom.
Yep, they've already started conversations with some of these, as he mentioned, their materials, see if they're longer lead time. We will probably spend a little bit more money up front, because again, if it's a lead time, we want them to order it now, and we'll find a place to store it, whether we store it, on their facility, and they take pictures, and we make sure it's bonded and insured, and then we can pay them for those materials. And so that would cost us a little bit of interest on the back end, because we're having to outlay a little bit of cash ahead of time. But we feel it's very important to do that, just in kind of the economic situation that potentially we have around us. Again, this is still a 26-month build, all the way 27-month, so a lot can happen in the next 2 years, as we know. Yeah, yeah. So again, there's some different line items there that we just wanted to, kind of call out there. And then the next section is other project items that kind of list there. The good thing with both of these, so I mean, we're almost talking, was that $4.4 million? If this is not used, it will come back to us, for example. So if we don't spend near or only a quarter of that, our owner contingency, we get to keep that amount. It just won't be used, right? So we will not be billed for that. Same thing with any of these other different items there. And so that's kind of again, the good thing there.
So you're talking about the allowance items, that's where
The allowance and the other project
any other
items.
projects, and the total for those two is about,
So, yeah, that, I just was in my head there, 4.54.
yeah, Roughly.
Yeah, 4.5, yeah. So again, it's there just to make sure we're covered. Again, we want to be able to build everything that we show, but yet we also need to make sure we want to pay for it. So, then on page 9, you'll see there that top section. Again, this is for construction costs only that we're holding Bateman Hall accountable for, and their guaranteed maximum price is $48,753,512. Okay, but again, I want to be clear that that's not the total price. And so if you flip one more page to, I think it's the 10th page on that PDF, you'll kind of show the total price. And so we throw in there, okay, the demolition cost, because obviously that cost us, there was some soft costs, the permits, city review, hookup fees. So the special inspections, it's hired by us to basically verify that what Bateman Hall and their subcontractors are up to standard there. And you can kind of see some other things there. The owner furnishings and IT and phone, again, those are just percentages. Again, we'll spend those as needed. And then the last A/E is architect/engineer. And so those are the fees that we've paid and will continue to pay Kent and his team. So the total budget for this is 56.5 million. And so as you remember, we were talking, high, 60, at least 60 or mid 60s. And so we're very, very happy of where the bids, came in there.
So this does include the extra classrooms and.
That is correct.
That's all those extras that we.
Yep, all the extra things that you talked about. Yep. Any thoughts?
Nothing.
You can say now. Say
An
now.
observation.
Okay. Okay. And so anyway, so that's where that that's what that contract is, and again, that's up for action for you, is to basically enter into the guaranteed maximum price addendum to Bateman Hall's contract. And then lastly, I wanted to kind of throw out there, now that we know that full amount, that 56.5 million, kind of wanted to show, and I updated some numbers here for the fire insurance. So those are the amounts that we've kind of seen, the interest that we've earned on the amounts that we have been paid. We've only been paid about half.
Where are you?
Where-
Oh, forgive me.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I flipped a document on you. So this is
Say,
the
I'm
other
scrolling
document.
Pages and pages.
Sorry, yeah. So those last 11 pages, yep.
Oh,
this
the
is-
memorandum.
Draft budget.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
draft budget. Forgive me about that. Yep. Those other ones, those are just all the plans and the specs. Those are just for legal terms. That's what the bids were based upon. So we needed to list those in the contract.
And so you're saying that's how much we have received, or we've only received half of that?
So for the fire insurance? Yeah. So I anticipate, from what they say, is that we will receive in total right around, 23.6 million. They are still, still reviewing some of the bids that from Bateman Hall, and we have an insurance meeting tomorrow because of this meeting tonight. So that way, if they have any questions about any of these bids, then we'll get some more information from the low bidder, from the subcontractor from Bateman Hall. And so, yes, we've received about half of that so far.
And you're only talking about the proceeds from insurance that go to the rebuilding, not displacement?
That is
and,
correct.
you know,
This
the
is
lot-
only the rebuild.
This is only
That is
the
correct.
rebuild.
So for example, in the cost, we have some furniture and equipment that's coming from insurance that was burnt in the D-wing.
Mm-hmm.
That's another amount.
A different.
Correct. I promise I had a lengthy discussion with our insurance adjuster to make sure I understood that. And yes, this 23.5 million is only to rebuild the building. So we can use it within this budget to pay for the work here.
So I'm seeing that we're only expecting to use 30 million of the facilities funding from the state,
Correct.
and we got,
43.5.
so.
Yeah.
And
the
11
additional
of it is the lottery, though, right? 12 of it.
That's correct. That's correct. We
What
saved
would've got
a little
from
bit of
the
that.
lottery over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I see.
And so the remaining of that will kind of go through our SIP project
Right.
and so forth. Again, as you can see, especially on that future estimate of the interest, those should be low numbers. I wanted to, again, not knowing where interest will come in the next months or even years. But I feel fairly confident that we'll at least have that amount. And again, we can, in future months, especially after we've started, we can provide an update, to the board on the budget and make sure we're doing everything good there. And so that's how we're proposing to pay for that amount. Again, those two sides.
So we're not going to use the SIP money that we previously
Well,
had? Or maybe is that part of our contingency?
No. So I talked that with Dr. Howell. We felt like there's more strings attached to the modernization facilities fund, more reporting. So that would be easier to say, okay, it was spent on Highland. Whereas the SIP, as you said, we could use that in any fashion, still through the same processes, through the board, through the committee. And so there's not as many strings attached to that. And so we felt like, and part of it still will go to Highland. As you remember, the parking lot, that front entrance, the things we want to do with Bench Road, that would then come out of SIP.
And that was already approved.
That was already in there.
When I was gone.
Absolutely.
So
So that was,
front entrance include, and does that include what the entire design for what Bench Road will be?
it maybe a portion of it, but it'll just like this project, that front entrance would be a multi-year project. But we're hoping,
But by the end of this project, that would be.
we're hoping that would be done. There's a lot of work there, and obviously we need to make sure we still clear of make sure that Bateman Hall and all their subcontractors have access and so forth.
Because I'm wondering too if, that all the paint that's chipping around the building.
Yep.
I
We've
would
talked.
assume that would just be is that included in?
Not in this 56 number, but it definitely will be in SIP. I
Because
promise.
that really is more in the maintenance budget, but,
Yep.
okay.
And really, that's where, we're really looking at that front. On the east side, what Design West has designed and Bateman Hall will build for us is going to just be awesome. And we also kind of want to think outside of the box in the front of that. Parent drop off. Man, we haven't had a parent drop off there. We've had congestion there. What can we do there to help now that we have the acreage across from Highland? But especially if we can gain access to Bench Road. And we can't go totally crazy. We'll still have to have some easements, but it just opens up a lot of possibilities.
Now, we learned something that might be a possibility yesterday.
Yep. And
I
we've
didn't want
talked.
to say anything, but
Go ahead.
I just thought if we heard yesterday that there's a possibility that we could have an easement from Olympus into our parking lot. We understand we can't.
Correct, correct.
Is that true? Can we do
So,
that?
excellent question. And Dr. Hall and I and Brian Glenn, we were all visiting, and we actually made a call to our city engineer and mentioned that conversation. He goes, okay, well, I need to go back and read the documents from, how many years ago was that?
To,
When that road was,
1980.
yep. Because they don't want to pay back that money, for example. So it's being verified. We're hoping it is, because that would again be a game changer if we
Because you
could.
could have
that do
everything
as you come
in
up the
and then
hill,
everything out.
Correct.
going
That's what we were told, that
one
maybe we
way
could
and
have
one
an
way.
entrance into there.
Right,
So,
not an exit.
but not an exit.
How are you gonna keep kids from?
Well,
Well, it's just built
yeah.
that way.
and,
I would not
but then they did
worry
mention
about
like an emergency exit,
Yeah, we did know we had permission for the
Correct.
emergency.
but that would be gated. I mean, it
Right,
basically
so
would be
the
your
exit
fire,
would be
police would.
Emergency only possibly?
Correct. You know, and then the same thing on top of Bench Road,
Right.
you
And
know.
there's pretty much an emergency every day when the bell rings.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be that. They couldn't use it for that. But, so again, there's just a lot of possibilities. We're verifying that information that Mayor Blatt had mentioned to you. And so, because yes,
Really
if
good
that's,
to- Really important to know, and I'm
yep,
really
yep,
grateful that we find that out before the design is
Correct,
done for
correct.
all the traffic flow in and out of that parking lot.
absolutely.
Because like you said, that parent drop-off is not.
Sure, correct.
I don't even have words.
No, amen, no.
Describe
And
how
I,
bad
and-
that
and I know that, and I didn't have.
So
yeah,
bad.
I didn't have that. So, again, I'm not, don't want to count my chickens till they're hatched, right? Especially with, price of eggs. But yes, we're hopeful. Let's say that. We are very hopeful. We're encouraged, and we will push for that. I mean, we expressed our desire to, yes, if we had any possibility to do that, because that would definitely change that whole acreage into there. And so that's why we're kind of holding, we'll probably have another dirt parking lot is probably what we're gonna have to do for, until we know some of these things from the state, the city.
Another dirt parking
No,
lot?
no,
or
no, just keep
current
the
dirt-
one,
dirt?
because we had talked maybe about paving that, make it a little more permanent, but now with these vacation of Bench Road, possibly gaining some access off of Olympus, we just don't want to put something permanent that we're gonna have to, change.
Yeah.
Where will you do all your staging?
Oh, good.
The upper parking lot, that's already blocked off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I
you
thought
won't
so.
need more than what's already blocked?
So,
That's what I thought.
Correct. And so I should mention that in an update, again, we're already starting to have those conversations, okay, if they need more parking, over the summer, if they're gonna take more parking over the summer, okay, how many is that? Do we need to do some more parking across the street, put in some more base, another 2 rows? Again, we wanna make sure, since this is 2 years, make sure we have, enough, parking there for that.
so,
I mean,
yeah, and I hear you can tell by looking at the cars who parks in that gravel by what they look like.
Sure, you gotta,
That's what I'm hearing is, oh, I know where
Yep.
you park. 'Cause
Sure.
They're destroyed.
And it's a choice, because as we've looked in there, I mean, that parking across the street is pretty full, but the large parking lot to the south is, there's a lot of spots there. So I don't know if they're choosing it for the ease of access, or I'm sure they are.
It's
so-
not-
so there's
I mean,
options,
it's a
that's what I'm
choice,
saying.
But at the same time,
We're not,
there isn't ever a good choice. Just
Sure.
because I have my 7th child.
yeah, so, yeah, I know,
And
I
the
know.
previous 6 had the nicer parking lot, and
Yes, yeah.
all 6 of them, it's 6 times how many wrecks in
Sure,
that
sure.
parking lot.
And that's our main goal.
But 0 at Pokey and Century, when they would go, and 0 anywhere else around town.
Yeah.
It was all.
Sure, just in parking lot. So we will, I mean, it's definitely,
for maybe one.
we'll educate our learners, and we'll do our best.
All of them. No, all of it was the parking lot. That's what my point is.
Yeah,
It wasn't out in
Yeah.
the safe town
yeah,
where they have like laws and roads.
yeah.
Makes
So definitely, definitely noted, and that's what we want to try to do is, sometimes you can't control what learners, or especially freshmen, sometimes in the spring, we'll do, you know, but again, we can have some features, some safety features there to hopefully minimize some of those accidents and obviously, just maintain safety there. I think.
And so I guess I can ask you later, but I guess I'm not really clear I'll ask you later about what is going to be done this summer, since what was planned, what isn't going to be
Okay,
included in what
That's-
is done. I'll just
okay,
ask you after.
okay. Sounds
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's what I got.
Good afternoon,
Oh,
trustee.
yes.
I didn't know if you
I'm
wanted me to just
sorry.
start. No, you're fine.
I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. I think everyone, you're well aware who I am. Good afternoon, trustees. I am
Sorry,
back
AJ.
before you. That's okay. I am back before you today. As you are all well aware, in January, decision was made to change and make new elementary attendance and enrollment areas. I just wanted to kind of explain to you the process. After the decision was made, we have to go into Infinite Campus, which is our student information system. And as these changes are made, addresses are attached to an Infinite Campus, a school. The only way to update that information is to go in and manually change every single address. So in most situations, it's not a big deal because it's only a few addresses, but where we impacted most of our elementary boundaries, it was a significant task to go in. Even if they aren't a household that currently has learners, you still have to go in case they do at some point and change all of those addresses. So all those addresses were updated in Infinite Campus, and we also had some discrepancies in regards to addresses in the GIS system, which use latitude and longitude, where in our Infinite Campus system, we attach it directly to an address, not so much latitude and longitude. So we had to clean up some of that information to make sure we had everything correct when we rolled out our new maps, indicating which school boundary they would be in, and make those available online. After all the addresses were updated, we can then do what we call our rollover, which you've probably heard about before, where we roll up the numbers for the next school year in order to start determining staffing and budgeting. But we really could not do that until we had those specific addresses and information changed in Infinite Campus. As that took place, we identified two areas that needed a little bit more consideration, and those were Gate City and Tendoy. Gate City, which we knew because of the highest capacity school, we kept some learners in that area as the boundaries were adjusted, and we identified 2 grades and most of the grades where they were really close or already overloading even prior to the start of the year, and expect, a little bit in those areas we get a little bit of growth, and so we identified that area. And then Tendoy Elementary also had a couple of had some classes, grade levels that were low in terms of their enrollment. And you try to do the best you can using GIS, but until you actually roll it up and get the specific numbers, you're not quite sure. We're pretty close on most of them. But as we looked at it, it made sense to consider these 2 boundary areas again, just in regards to what it could look like or what would help those 2 areas. And so before you today, we have a proposed recommendation. And you have a map in your document as well, and I think it pretty clearly identifies, but you have 2 areas. Area 1 would be moved back into, the recommendations to move it back into Idaho. This would move 61 learners from Gate City that were in Idaho last year back into Idaho, and then we would move kind of that Monte Vista area that was moved into Idaho back into Tendoy, which was, 43 learners. Back into Tendoy's boundary, which are currently Tendoy's boundary this year. So these 2 changes are really only putting learners back into their original boundaries based on the rollover numbers. Less change, people would stay in their current boundaries. So we thought that it would make sense to do that while we can, and not have some the capacity issues at Gate City and help with our capacity at Tendoy. And it would be less change. I know there's a lot of change, but it would be less change. So if we can do it and it would make sense, why not go ahead and take a look at that and let everybody know if we can. We still have enough time to make those changes on there.
So much more sense.
So-
These boundaries, are these the original ones,
colors.
or are they just close to?
So the ones that you have on your map, so the ones that are in the black, if you see, so like, let's look at Area
Yeah.
1, for example, that area that's blue right there, that's Gate City, was the original, that black line shows where the original boundary is. So if you
And it would just
approved
go
it,
back to
it would
that.
go back, so that area would actually change to green, which it is right now.
And that was the original?
Correct. That's
Okay,
what
and
it
then
is right
is that
now.
the same with the
And
Monte
this,
Vista
and the same on the
boundary?
Monte Vista one. So the black line would show where the new boundary would be, and it would actually, the color would just change. We kept the colors in there so you could see that that was the area that was moved to Idaho, but it would change back to that black line in its original boundary.
Honestly, that was the biggest problem I had with those boundary
Mm-hmm.
maps.
So it definitely made
I
more
wasn't-
sense as we looked at it. Why not do it now? Why we have time and the opportunity to do that?
I like that a lot.
Mr. Watson, will you just talk a little bit about what that will do with transfers?
Yes, and so I just wanted to also talk, and that's not in the packet, but as we've talked with transfers, one, this change will help because there will be fewer transfers from those schools because we have seen, which we knew would happen, right? Anytime there's a change, a number of families that are being moved boundary-wise have submitted transfer requests. And so, which we knew would happen. We have a lot more of them than we've ever had at this time of year. We will not be able to, as much as we would like to, based on the physical capacity and staffing capacity of our buildings. We will not be able to approve all of our transfer requests or as many as we have in the past because we have had more capacity and space in our buildings with closing a school building. You're going to expect that. But it also has an impact because as we talked to I just wanted to give you an update. As you remember, we were getting legal counsel on kind of the grandfathering in of some of those learners that were being moved, if they could be grandfathered or prioritized. And Amy White came back and indicated that due to the state's open enrollment law, we could be in violation of open enrollment if we prioritize those students ahead of students that have been there 2 or more years. So she said, if you grandfather them all in, you could go ahead and do that and prioritize it, but you would also have to grandfather in those that have been there 2 or more years. And for us, there's no way capacity-wise within our buildings we can do that. And so the grandfathering, prioritizing, we can still put them ahead of students that are, 1 or just starting their 2nd year. But if they've been there 2 or more years, it would create an issue with the open enrollment law as far as the grandfathering piece. So this could help a little bit with, it's only a couple schools, but it could definitely help with the transfer piece because I'm assuming all of those that put in transfers for those 2 areas will be like, we no longer want those transfer requests. But we will still have some of those concerns with the other areas that we've made changes.
Like, are you seeing mostly the concern in that Chubbuck area? In that, or is there a specific place that?
There's not. It's all of the
It's-
school. It's all of them where we made changes. They like their. Change is hard, as we know, and they like their schools and their school communities. And I really do believe they will like their new school communities, but it's going to take a little bit of time to transition. And once they do, they're going to like it. But I just wanted to make you aware of that as well.
And just so the whole neighborhood is together is, I
Yeah.
think, also important. So, just to be clear, people that are there 2 or more years will be placed ahead of, but not
So it'll,
policy?
right. So
That
the way.
Policy of grandfathering?
Right, we won't be able to, we had talked about prioritizing those
Prioritize,
families
yeah.
that were going to be moved due to the boundary or enrollment change ahead of the other transfer requests, but we won't be able to do that because of the open enrollment law.
Okay, so I guess just to be clear, we won't have a policy of that, but you are still prioritizing? Or
So we'll go by, so the way it'll work is we'll go by date of when they submitted the transfer request.
Oh.
So like we normally have, we still have our procedure that we go through. So zone waivers, those that have been there 2 or more years, they go to the top of the list as far as, and then we'll go by, and then we go by date. And then we can give priority to those boundary-wise after the zone waivers. If you were in that boundary, we can give them priority over those that are just their first or starting their 2nd year. If
So
that
our
makes sense.
policy that's written,
We have it in
is
there. We
fine.
just don't have anything, we don't have to change anything other than the fact that we know we have some of these boundary changes that are impacting that a little bit. But there's not really that many of them. Most of them are either the transfer requests that have been there 2 or more years, or the majority of them are going to be these new ones because of the boundary change.
I see.
Well, I hope you're right. I know you're right when you said that, transfers can be changed. This could be a good thing for some of these kids. And I think the big thing is that we need to be positive, and I think parents need to be positive with their kids and make sure that they look at it as a good thing. You know, a new school, new friends, new atmosphere, and an opportunity to learn and grow from their experience. If we say, oh man, this is a bad thing for them, they're going to believe that, and that's what we're going to face. And so, for our teachers and our students' sake, I hope that as a community we'll be positive in our efforts to make these changes.
And I appreciate you bringing that up, because I really truly do feel that way. But we also want families to feel very welcome, because we know it's challenging not only for the parents but also for the new learners, because some of them leaving friends, teachers, people that they've 4 or 5 years they've spent at the elementary school. So we are doing in May, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but in May we're doing a welcome to our school event at all of our elementary schools to welcome in just the new families and help them feel comfortable, talk to them a little bit about the school. And so we thought that was really important, that we prioritized making them feel comfortable prior to summer, giving them maybe a little piece of mind. Hey, you know what, there's some really great things at our school. Here's some things you have to be excited for. Here's what you can look forward to. And we're gonna do that district-wide for any of those new learners.
And would that be prior to your transfer requests being accepted?
Yes.
Because your transfer requests are in August, correct?
Correct, yeah, so
Okay,
elementary, wait till
anyone who might
August.
potentially be going to those schools that are new, they will be invited.
Correct. And then if they end up deciding to transfer, and some of them, honestly, they change their mind over the summers or over the summer before the school starts and we accept the transfer, and like, you know what, we've just decided we're going to give it a go and try it. And it takes a little time, but
And
we're
they'll
like,
always
we don't
be
want to
accepted
transfer,
back.
but yeah. And so they'll have a space,
Okay.
if they choose not to transfer they'll have a space at their school.
That sounds like a really good idea, but I would stop short of advising parents anything.
Advising.
Quite a process for you guys, and we appreciate all those that have been involved in it.
Tara's going to be really excited when I go tell her that we have to go manually change all of these addresses back. But we'll gladly do it because it's the right thing to do. We changed them once, we're going to change it, but it's not all of them, just a few that we're going to
Ask her
change
what
back.
she wants from,
I will. Anything
What we
additional,
can-
question-wise?
thank
Okay, and that is up for action. We've thought that it was just since a minor revision and putting them back, we put it up for action today at our board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. We'll now accept any public comment with regard to Highland High School or the elementary enrollment, and we did not receive any. So we will move on. I will now convene a special meeting for action. The first item of business is to consider awarding the Highland High School Phase 2 bid package. Is there a motion?
I hereby move that the board award the Highland High School Phase 2 bid package as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Any more questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion passed. The next item of business is to consider accepting the Bateman Hall guaranteed maximum price contract agenda amendment. Is there a motion?
I move that we consider accepting the Bateman Hall guaranteed maximum price as been read.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passed. The final item of business is to consider adopting the proposed elementary enrollment area revision. Is there a motion?
I move that the board adopt the proposed elementary enrollment area revision as presented.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion passed. Is there anything else for this meeting?
I
Okay.
move that we dismiss.
I second that
concludes
motion.
this meeting. I would entertain a motion.
I second the
It's
motion.
already done.
Jim and
so-
Ray.
Okay, it's